Within Nairobi's impoverished slums, Jacinta Aweno navigates her daily chores amidst a maze of rusty iron sheets. The little tin shack that lacks a toilet and running water has sheltered her family for years and would cost $380 to build. She has raised her 4 children here alongside her husband, who earns $75 each month from casual construction jobs. But she desires alternative housing, and she envies those who have escaped such makeshift homes to more permanent dwellings under the government's affordable housing plan.
We would really love to move into better houses, but we do not have the money to afford them. Those government houses are like a dream for us, but our incomes simply don't allow it.
The government plans to build 250,000 houses each year, aimed at eventually closing a housing deficit that the World Bank puts at 2 million units. The plan was launched in 2022. However, there's no data immediately available on the number of houses already completed. Some are exploring the emerging technology of 3D printing. Company CEO François Perrault says the technology can help address the huge housing need on the African continent, but it will take time.
The housing need on the continent is huge. It's more than 2 million houses here in Kenya. It's more than 10 million in Nigeria. And we know that if we want to clear that backlog, we need to build differently. We need to build at scale, with speed, and with low carbon materials. And this is what construction 3D printing makes possible, so that we clear that backlog soon.
The company, 14 Trees, used the technology to build a showcase house in Nairobi and 10 houses in the coastal Kilifi County. But homes, like many traditional built ones, remain beyond the reach of most Kenyans. A 2-bedroom house costs $22,000 and a 3-bedroom one costs $29,000. But Perrault says that acquiring a printer locally and making mortar locally will help bring down the cost.
People don't really worry or care about the technology. What they care about is the design, the price, the way it is set up, the layout of the building. And the positive feedback we had was on the aesthetic and the pricing and the location of the project we delivered. The areas for improvement that they gave us and that we are introducing on the second phase is the size and the shape of the different rooms. But this is basic feedback that you always get on the development and that we integrate on the next projects.
For many, such new technology has great potential but remains limited.
Yeah, in spite of the great potential of 3D printing technology, it will still take a long time for it to be able to compete with the brick and mortar. Brick and mortar, everybody can build their house anywhere they are. They're able to access the materials, they're able to access the tradesmen who are able to build the house, and they can plan the cost, they can plan how much money they have, they can build in phases. 3D printing as a technology as it is currently doesn't offer all those options. So it makes it very difficult to be the silver bullet to solve the affordable housing challenge, in spite of its huge potential.
Kenya's urban population makes up a third of the country's total population of more than 50 million. Of those living in urban areas, 70% live in informal settlements marked by lack of basic infrastructure, according to the UN Habitat. Some urban Kenyans have moved into a government housing project on the outskirts of Nairobi, where 1-bedroom units sold for $7,600 last year.
This is the first place I've lived where it's permanently mine. This is where I've started living my life. I've never lived my life. Now I've started living my life because I have hope. If I do something here, it is permanent. If I plant a flower, nobody's going to tell me, uproot it. I don't want it there. This gives me life.
In June 2023, Kenya's parliament passed a finance law with a new housing tax of 1.5% on gross income to be used to build affordable housing. The law is being challenged in court. Critics argue that the tax is discriminatory as it applies only to those with formal employment. If the tax is rejected, Kenya's government would need to look elsewhere for funding to build affordable housing. Beryl Oral, CGTN.